Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Sir Alex Ferguson's 1998-99 side is widely considered one of the greatest Premier League teams of all time, and certainly one of his best alongside the 07-08 side. Indeed, they were the first English side to win the treble, ending the season with the Premier League, FA Cup, and a dramatic Champions League win. Characterized by a high-tempo attacking style of football, they were a joy to watch. But what tactics did Ferguson use that made them so formidable? In this video, we take a look. And if you want to keep up with your favorite teams and players, check out the OneFootball app. It will give you team and player stats, transfer news, and so much more. Absolutely free through the sponsored link in the description below. The first step was acquiring a team that was capable of reaching such heights, and Ferguson dipped into the transfer market strategically. A few of the key incomings include Blomqvist for $5 million, John O'Shea on a free, and the major incomings ahead of the season were Jaap Stam for £11 million and Dwight Yorke for 12.5, both of which were sizable fees in that era, and both played crucial roles in this historic season. Let's first look at how Ferguson chose to line up. In the 90s, it seemed that there was only one default formation in English football, the good old-fashioned 4-4-2. And Ferguson's United were no different, and generally his first choice personnel looked like this. The most variable positions were the front two, as in Sheringham and Solskjaer he had two able deputies. Scholes at this point was also much more offensive, meaning when playing higher quality opposition, where more solidity was needed, Nicky Butt could often enter the fray. Now, let's take a look at their tactics in possession. This was way before the era where playing out from the back was considered standard. So Schmeichel often looked for the long ball from the goal kick, and in Yorke and Cole he had two competent aerial targets to aim for. Winning the second ball was a big area of focus for most teams, with Scholes usually pushing up to do so, as the second forward usually looked to run in behind for the flick on. The wingers were also capable of coming in narrower to try and win the second ball as well, giving them 4 men in each direction around the second ball. Occasionally from deep, Schmeichel could look to pick out a deeper man, and the fullbacks dropped deeper in space to receive, as the opposition wingers would be hesitant to follow, as this could leave United's winger free to receive the second ball. So, the fullback could carry the ball higher up the pitch, or if the opposition winger came to confront him, he could look to play down the flank instead. And generally, in open play, United played at a high tempo, looking to run the opposition ragged. This often involved the centre-backs being more direct and either looking for the head of the forward, although we often saw Yorke in particular more willing to drop into the hole to potentially receive a penetrative pass between the lines. And the Yorke and Cole partnership is famed, often looking to play 1-2s to look to get one of them into a good shooting position. And the backup forwards shared similar traits, meaning rotation wouldn't need a significant change in approach, as Sheringham could perform the more withdrawn role, while Solskjaer could easily play off the defender's shoulder just as easily. But in open play, the double pivot of Scholes and Keane had a good relationship. Both were great on the ball and capable of rotating it around the pitch. But constant fluid movement from the forwards was United's game, with a runner always seemingly available. So, Scholes' better passing range was the key, as he often looked for longer balls into the man in space, and was crucial in switching the play from side to side, which United often did. In addition, they very much used the one-up, one-down philosophy to ensure there was always defensive cover in midfield. This usually involved Keane staying deeper to hold and Scholes pushing on as the more attacking outlet, to provide an extra body outside the box or to look for a long-range shot, which he often had success with. But this side was renowned for its use of the wide regions, which is no surprise, with two legendary wide men in Ryan Giggs and David Beckham. Down the left, Irwin was a much more conservative fullback and was 32 at the time and didn't have the engine to go up and down the pitch for 90 minutes. So, for the most part, he stayed deeper in a supporting role, looking to free Giggs in the channel or to play infield. This worked to Giggs' strength either way, as with no one overlapping, it freed him to hug the touchline, which was the name of his game. 1 versus 1, he used his explosive pace and close control time and again to get past a marker and into the wide region. Once here, he had targets to find in the box with a whipped cross. Solskjaer, when he came on, was particularly good at finding pockets of space to get crucial goals. And on the right, this was altered slightly. The 23-year-old Neville was full of energy and willing to bomb up and down the touchline and overlap as much as possible. And this freed up Beckham, who in many ways was not a traditional winger. Instead, he preferred to tuck into this right half space, although he could go as far as the 10 position. This meant that if a fullback was drawn in with Beckham, he could look to feed in Neville on the overlap. But if he was given space, he could cause havoc. In an era where most teams played with a double pivot, Beckham from here meant United essentially had a 3 vs 2 advantage at the time, allowing them to keep the ball. And despite Beckham's crossing getting most of the shine, his long-range passing was incredible. And from here, he could go for the big switch, changing the point of attack instantly. He could also look for the ball over the top of the defense to a forward who was ghosting in behind. But of course, his crossing was a major weapon, as he didn't necessarily have to hug the touchline to cause danger. From any position on the right, he could curl in a pinpoint cross to a forward, making a run to the far side to get on the end of a header. He ended this season with the joint second most assists in the league with 11, as did York, who also loved to drop deep and create. York was also impressive in the scoring stakes, scoring the joint most with 18, whilst Cole was in close pursuit on 17. But as United was so free-flowing in attack, their defense did suffer to a certain extent. They conceded 37, and although this was the 4th least, it's still almost a goal a game. And just like their possession was based on high tempo, so was their defense. Ferguson's men were hard-working throughout the 90 and looked to press high. This would often be in a 2-4-4 shape. But of course, the high line left them vulnerable to the ball over the top, and opponents were able to get in on goal a few times in this manner. It helped that United had one of the best Premier League keepers and 1 vs 1 stoppers in league history, so he was often able to thwart the opposition. In deeper areas, they settled into a more traditional flat 4-4-2. Scholes would often be the more aggressive, looking to press, whilst Keane shifted deeper into a covering role, ready to sweep up anything that came through. The centre-backs had a similar relationship, with Stam willing to jump the line to win the ball whilst having cover in behind. United tended to defend fairly narrow, looking to remain horizontally compact, and willing to allow crosses from the wide regions, with their centre-backs and aerially dominant keeper able to deal with this. These were the foundations for one of the best Premier League sides we've seen. In hindsight, it may look like a season like this was a given, when looking at the quality of the first 11. However, after winning nothing in 97-98, many fans were skeptical about the success they could have with such a young squad. Seemingly as always, Fergie knew best, and led them to their greatest ever season. But what are your thoughts on this team? What other tactics do they use? And where do they rank in your all-time Premier League teams? Drop it down in the comments below. And if you want even more content, whilst helping to support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/footballmadesimple. You'll get early access to videos, exclusive videos, as well as access to the upcoming FMS video podcast. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.